Right, so picture the scene.
Right.
You're on a couch playing Sunset Overdrive.
Yep.
And I'm also there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did for 2 hours this morning.
Yep.
I mean, getting some impressions of Sunset Overdrive, what kind of a game it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of comparisons that come to mind.
Yeah.
There's lots of things in there, like there's a really obvious Infamous comparison. There's Crackdown in there. There's lots of Tony Hawk inspiration.
Yep.
I mean, what did you think of it 2 hours into the game? Like, were you inspired to do the rest of what is probably a 40-hour game on average?
No, it made me want to go to sleep. So that's pretty much how I felt about it. It's difficult to know what we can and can't say, what we're going to do. So far, it's early days. So far, I just can't believe that these are the same guys that made Resistance 3.
You hold Resistance 3 in quite high regard, don't you?
Yeah. It's like when Scorsese or someone or Spielberg go, I'm going to make a fucking comedy. And it's just not funny. You're like, okay. And you think someone would go, Actually, having said that, with Insomniac's kind of weapons and commitment to cool weapons and interactions from their previous games, you think that this would be pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But so far, it's tremendously dull.
Yeah.
It feels a bit Infamous-y, and Infamous is just dull.
Yeah.
Infamous is the dullest game. There's nothing that comes to my mind when I think of Infamous, apart from a big 404.
It's like, even just looking at Sunset Overdrive, by rights, it should be 10 times as fun as Infamous is. But it's so far, it's kind of just as dull.
Yeah.
Even though it's very different, and there's this focus on zaniness and
unfortunately, it's like fucking Alex Zane. So the enemies are people who have consumed this energy drink, and they've turned into monsters.
Yeah,
and it was obviously a conscious choice to have these monsters, but I'm not sure if it was a conscious choice for them to ape the very worst design element from Crackdown 2, a game so inferior to its own prequel. Yeah, and you get that whole kind of Crackdown 2 vibe where it's like, oh, here come the zombies or mutants or whatever they're fucking called.
Yeah, it was freaks in Crackdown 2.
Yeah. That's how I feel about the game so far. Yeah. And there's loads of shit going on all the time, but none of it ever really feels like, let me consult my notes that I've written down here.
Yeah.
Okay. Note 1, the ultimate hipster video game.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go into that in a bit. Tedious combat. It's got no spark. Endless rail running. So like in Tony Hawk, you have to, when you're on the rail, when you're grinding shit, that requires some skill. Yeah. This you just keep going round and round and round, and the multiplayer keeps on racking up. You're meant not to touch the floor in this game, but I mean, it doesn't really seem to matter above and beyond your multiplier and all that sort of noise. It's not, you never really feel like, oh shit, like in a Tony Hawk combo. If you bail out of it, you're like, fuck, I've really lost something there. Yeah. In this, it's like, I'll just start it again.
And there was one bit when you were there was a small sort of railing around, like some kind of feature, like a monument or a fountain or something. So you were just railing, auto railing around this thing, essentially ducking behind cover. Every second or so, and the whole other time spamming all the freaks with fire. So like you can't lose.
Pretty much, yeah.
You get onto that railing. I mean, this isn't the same in every sort of combat situation you get yourself into, but essentially every other combat situation is the same idea. You get onto that railing, you keep going round, and you just have to concern yourself with firing and staying on the railing.
It's also auto aim is on, so you don't actually really have to aim at anything.
You sort of vaguely point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very simple, and there's no penalty for death that I could see either.
No, you just respawn, and some of the respawn animations are quite fun. They do take inspiration from kind of classic spawning.
Yeah, there was a Terminator one, and there's one where there's a sarcophagus, like you come out doing the Egyptian walk and all that. That's quite cool. But yeah, I mean, you will respawn about 5 feet away from where you died as well.
So you might as well not have to die.
Yeah.
You know, and I think so far there's a lot of fetch questing. I mean, and you know, Grand Theft Auto's got a lot of fetch questing. That's essentially what the game is. However, Grand Theft Auto, its world, you enjoy being in its world.
Yeah.
And also, the characters in in this game. They are so fundamentally dislikable.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, some of GTA's characters are as well.
Yeah.
But these guys, like at one point, you have to do a mission for a bunch of prep school kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, you've got to go and get my robot dog.
Yeah.
Why? You've got a fucking gun. Just go, look, this is what I need, you cunts. Give it to me or I'll shoot you. Not, oh, okay, off I go. I'll find a robot dog.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no urgency to any of the action. And the plot is just shithouse.
Yeah.
So there's nothing dragging you through it in there. The combat is, shoot, rail, shoot, rail. And so there doesn't seem to be any hook to it. It's like a very cool idea that's not been realised very well at all.
Yeah. But this is where we are now. Early days.
Yeah. It could become amazing. You should throw that in there. It could. But if it does, I will be amazed.
Yeah. And there's some, I mean, it's got all the building blocks for something that could be really good as well. It's just, but yeah, the thing that was getting me as well was the tone of the humour. There's a sort of self-congratulatory, I mean, as you put it earlier, attempting to deconstruct certain tropes and laugh at them. But in doing so, it's exhibiting those very same tropes quite happily. Yeah. So what the game's humour essentially is pointing at itself and going, look at me, aren't I shit?
It feels, like I say, just like a hipster video game. Yeah. You know, the kind of like detached, you know, almost ironic deconstruction of various things. But it doesn't actually add anything. In fact, it takes away from the entire experience. It doesn't subvert anything. Yeah, it just does what those other games do. Haha, I've got a gun that looks like a penis because all guns are penises. Now, and then I'm going to spend 1,000 years firing said gun. Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
And it's like, we drink this energy drink and it turns everyone into monsters. All right, yeah, okay, I get it. So what? But then maybe they'll explore that. But so far, it's just very. That's the noise.
It's the least dull looking game.
Oh yeah,
it's got no right to be dull.
I know. In terms of its art direction, it's very cool. But yeah, none of it makes sense, and not even in a cool it does make sense, but it's fine. Go with it. And let's face it, not a lot of video games do make sense. You know.
Yeah.
Like for example, Bioshock Infinite's opening. Right, it's just like, what the fuck is going on here? Yeah. But you're like, okay, well, I get it, it's video games, right? But it's so boring so far. It's so dull. If you're going to be stupid, then, then go massively over the top with it.
Yeah.
Like Crank, the greatest movie of all time.
Of course, there are people watching this that will immediately have a go about us calling this dull because of what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think we should once again point out that it shouldn't be dull because of what it looks like, because of what it does, because of the whole ethos of the game. It just somehow manages to be dull, is what we're saying.
I think so far, and again, it's early days, but so far, the problem I have is that none of the traversal stuff is very difficult. So there's no real sense of achievement in keeping yourself on the off the floor.
No.
And the weapons themselves, the enemies, you can just all take them out with the same tactics. So you've got to hop between places and shoot different ones with different guns while maybe you're ziplining and maybe you're grinding later on. I mean, some enemies are bigger and tougher and some just kind of run towards you and explode, which can throw you off your line, as it were.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like...
There's no strategy to it.
No, grind, shoot, grind. And the cooldown meter on your combo is quite forgiving. So you never really feel that you're against it, that you think, shit, I've got to get down there or shoot someone or grenade or whatever.
As we say, it is early days.
Yeah.
So, you're obviously going to play it to completion and then we'll have a proper verdict.
Yeah.
As and when we're allowed to. But yeah. So far, it's slightly disappointing.
I think we'll say that now, and then we'll say, because we can't judge it completely, but it's not a good opening.
No,
it's not a good opening. 2 hours, and video games are too long by fucking half. Like if I had bought it, and I was like, right, let's fucking give this a go. I play the first 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I just go, this can get in the fucking bin. They'll be straight back. I'll be straight to CEX. going past all the nicked phones, handing it in, being, there you go, mate. Just throw us in the bin or whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because Insomniac do make some fucking good games.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this is just going to completely turn around. But we can only go on what we've seen, and so far, not impressed at all.
Yeah, but we are still kind of in a tutorial stage as well. There are still, the game is still telling you how to do stuff.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not quite. I just hope that we always seem to talk about Assassin's Creed 3 in here, right? But, Assassin's Creed 3 has that fucking 8-hour prologue.
Yeah, tutorial the game.
Yeah. And I'm just hoping it's not quite that bad. Like, you got your 2 hours, and it's a wee bit, and maybe after the 2 hours, they're confident that the player knows what they're doing now, and then they just unleash. And it'll be great.
Well, I hope that happens as well because, like I said, I do like the guys' games. But yeah, we have brought up Assassin's Creed 3, but I mean, it's not as bad as Assassin's Creed 3 is like a 3 out of 10 game. It's not even a fucking game. It's an errand simulator.
Yeah.
It's Assassin's Creed 3 on the record is total shit. Like 100%. Just honestly, just delete it. Delete it from, like if I could go back in time and stop one thing happening, it might actually be Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm not even joking. I dislike it that much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, or maybe Man City winning the league.
So this isn't that bad.
Oh no.
Right.
It's a cut above, several in fact, but it's not really fulfilling the kind of the promise or even the premise so far. I wasn't massively excited about Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be, I think it can be in fact quite dangerous to be really hyped for a game for review. But I remember seeing it at a few shows and thinking, all right, I get it. Like the hook is really cool. The grinding, the shooting, and I was like, these guys know their weapons, and I'm hoping that they're going to be able to put this together. So far, not been able to do it. So, let's see.